And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good, man. I was just telling Jeremy that I was had a celebration of dinner of sardines and saltine crackers, man, for this OU and Texas to the SEC situation, man. Woke up this morning and I guess they decided to file divorce. I think really the big question with this divorce is when will Texas or Oklahoma really leave for what it seems like about 100% the SEC. It's going to be 22, 23, 24, 25 at this particular point. And then while I was eating dinner, my wife was actually giving me the 411 on Ben Affleck, J-Lo, and A-Rod. I guess they're vacationing in the same area. So if anybody's interested in that information, I figured I'd put that out tonight, man. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing phenomenal. Yeah, I haven't eaten yet. What's on the menu tonight for me is grilled pork chops, grilled shrimp, and then I'm going to try some new cheddar hot links that I got from HEB, and then probably some rice and stuff like that. But the more important topic that you're just talking about is how soon is this move going to happen? We're hearing that the buyout, that we're going to have to buy ourselves out of the league unless we're willing to go to 2025. I see to have max effect that you write that what is reported to be a $75 million to $80 million check to get out of the Big 12 as soon as you possibly can and start playing football in the SEC starting in 2022. Your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, biggest thing, man, is right now. I think again, it's time frame, man, and I think the time frame is really like we always talk about. You're talking it affecting what is the lifeline of every program and the lifeblood of every program, and that's recruiting. Because if they can make a decision and figure out, hey, we're going to 22, which it sounds like, there's some, obviously some sources out there talking about Kevin Elfheim's already got the money to pay to get us out of the league. But do they want to take Oklahoma and Texas at the same time? Does Oklahoma have the money to pay $80 million to walk away from the contract as well? But right now, 22, because you got some big names, and we'll kind of go through, how this move could potentially help out on the recruiting trail. But right now, I see 22 at the latest 23. I think if you give them 18 months from the time, which they can always kind of go back to court and kind of settle out of that. I think it's June 30, 2023 is the earliest, but I definitely see us moving hopefully in 22, man. You got two lame ducks in a conference, man. What are you going to do with them?
The sooner the better. Like I talked to you yesterday. I think we were talking yesterday, and I told you I didn't watch much Texas A&M football over the last couple of years because it didn't really affect us. Yeah, it affected us in recruiting, but we weren't going to have them on the schedule. So I really didn't watch too much. Yes, I watched Alabama play in the national championship games, but I spent most of my Saturdays watching the other Big 12 teams because that's what our concern was. Now that we know we're moving to the SEC, I'm going to spend a whole lot of Saturday looking ahead at the SEC conference, hoping that we write that check. Again, it's reported that ESPN owes the University of Texas $120 million, which is the length or the rest of the contract for Longhorn Network. Hopefully we can get a settlement on that and use that money to go towards that $75 million buyout to the Big 12 to get out of there as soon as possible. I'm like you, JS Hooper. I'm 22 or bust, man. Let's get this thing started.
Yeah, and so for the Longhorn Network, and if you've listened to us, if you listen to me a few times, you've listened to us a few times, man, you'll know that Longhorn Network is not my friend. I'm not a friend of the Longhorn Network. Yeah, it's cool that we can get all the baseball on there. You get volleyball, softball games on there. But at the end of the day, if you look at when the Longhorn Network started versus when we started our decline as a football program, they're synonymous to each other. And I think right now they keep the coach, the football coach, too busy, too many shows. Hell, do a press conference on Monday, do a press conference on Thursday. Other than that, don't ask Steve Sarkisian to do anything outside of coaching our football team. And I think Longhorn Network going away, it's cool to do a couple of interviews here and there. But to me, like you said, I think it's $130 million they owe us over the next till 2031. Hell, they can use that money to really help us buy out of the situation. Which obviously it's ESPN and SEC driven with us actually going to the SEC.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree on the distraction of the Longhorn Network. Like you said, I get it on Monday doing a post press conference, but showing an all 22 film with Lowell Galindo saying what you do well and what you're not doing well, that just, not that the other coaches can't see it. But again, it's taking time away from recruiting, taking time away from game prep for the following week, taking time away from the practice field to do all those commitments that Longhorn Network would ask of you. So yeah, get rid of that along with using that money to get us out of the Big 12 and back to the SEC.
And for those that are, I can't think worried about, obviously not being able to watch games. I think if ESPN has anything it really has anything to do with it. You're talking about, it may come down to ESPN Plus. You'll probably have to get ESPN Plus to be able to get the rest of these games. But again, if you want LHN and you're in a specific part of the United States, the chances of you getting LHN are it's really hard to get, unless you're, somewhere, in Texas, whatever the case may be. And then your cable providers are really chosen for you based on if you want to get LHN. And I think what ESPN Plus does is allow you to have an opportunity to get it wherever you're at as a Texas fan, which I know people ask us all the time, especially going towards football season. Hey, does anybody got a login and password that I can use to watch those games that used to be on LHN? I don't think you have to so much worry about that anymore. I think you have an opportunity to watch all your games through the ESPN network.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Johnny's right. I mean, you're probably going to miss conference baseball games, but ESPN Plus is probably going to be the place, or the SEC Plus network is probably where you're going to find Longhorn baseball games, and then non-conference basketball. Everything else will be covered by ESPN.
Yeah, so they're talking about this buyout money. I know, Queen Bee up here. I think they get out for less money than a state. It seems like the last two out of Big 12 were much less. I think that's what happens. You'll go back to the drawing board. These lawyers will get involved and say, well, you owe us $80 million, but hell, we're the one that's generating the most money. And I think that's where people get it twisted at. They're like, well, Texas, we're pissed off at Texas, Oklahoma because they're leaving the Big 12. Well, how could you leave these other teams? Oklahoma and Texas has made all these teams all this money, $35 million for a Baylor or a TCU, whatever the case may be. A Texas Tech, we've been handing them money for the last 10 years, and now you're upset because we're leaving. They need to settle out of court, man, to make that $80 million a little less than what it is at this point.
And I've spent very little time over my fandom watching the SEC Network and Paul Feinbaum's show. But I will say, since this news broke last Thursday, I've spent a whole lot of time on there. And reportedly what got the ball rolling on this whole thing, and I was telling Clint, according to SEC Network, was that the Oklahoma and Texas approached the Big 12 conference with thoughts on renegotiating their TV contract, because you guys have heard the SEC teams are making a lot more money than the Big 12 teams. They were met with cold shoulders, basically told to kick rocks, and that's what influenced them to start talking, reaching out to the SEC and trying to link up with them, was the cold shoulder they got from their current TV contract. Like Clint said, they're the bell cows in this conference. Oklahoma and Texas make this conference. So like you said, it's one thing to say, hey, we're not going to give you more money, but then when you choose to leave, hey, can we do some kind of collective bargaining where we're going to give you more money? But yeah, I totally agree with the statement that you made.
Yeah, I think, J.S. Hooper right here, Feinbaum is insufferable. Hell, I hadn't watched that guy ever until last Thursday. But it's funny because you get on there, man, he gets these these people that call in, and then all of a sudden it's like, a dude from Georgia called in today, and he's fired up. He's angry at Texas. Well, Texas hasn't done anything. And I think he's a Georgia Bulldog fan, and it'd been easy pretty much shut him down. Hey, Texas beat you in the Sugar Bowl in 2018. He was talking bad about Tom Herman, but Tom Herman was the one that beat you in that Sugar Bowl. And then he turned around. What is Missouri? Missouri came to the Big or to the SEC. What have they done since they went to the SEC? And you got to think about it. They actually went to the SEC championship twice out of the East within the first couple of years they were there. Again, we did a podcast yesterday, and one of the things I was going to bring up that I didn't bring up on the podcast. And if you have an opportunity, I think we're putting that out tomorrow. I think we did a podcast Wednesday. We did a podcast on StuCast. We'll put that on Wednesday. Had some conversation about the SEC and a couple of other things, what we're expecting from the Texas Longhorns moving into the fall. But three things I got out of reading these message boards. They don't want Texas. They don't want Texas, Oklahoma joining the SEC. You have that crowd, and then you have the other crowd that says, "Hey, you know what? SEC, Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC is going to make us that much more powerful." And then the third group is like, "Hey, let's get rid of Missouri and Texas A&M and just grab Oklahoma and Texas." That was what was happening over the last 4 days as you read these message boards. But I think at this particular thing, at this point, I think the team out east that's been throwing a fit over the last 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever you want to call it, their little temper tantrum out there have come to a point where they have now really resorted to the fact that SEC really don't care what they have to say about the situation. They just need to fall in line just like everybody else.
And again, I watched the whole show today, and he was given a memo. Paul Fonbaum was initially what happened, I guess, on Friday when he brought on Texags guy Billy Lucci. There was a whole lot of heartache by those two on the network, and I guess he was given a memo this week to say tamper down on the negativity about Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference because he let that be known today that he was fully in support of it, when we know last Thursday and Friday he was completely dismissive of both schools and played it down, and it wasn't going to happen. He kind of sung a different tune today and let it be known that he was given what he say putting time out for the disparaging remarks that he said about Texas and Oklahoma. And again, during this podcast that me and Clint put out yesterday with Al Studer of StuCast, we were asked about where does Texas see themselves in the Big 12. And I kind of, or I'm sorry, in SEC. And I kind of chronicled, I don't spend a whole lot of time gambling, don't really gamble. It's not my thing. But if you go look at the odds makers, current standings of Texas versus the rest of the SEC, they're currently favored to lose 3 ball games. I think Georgia's a 2-point underdog, A&M's 2-point underdog, and then, of course, Alabama's a 10-point underdog. But they're scheduled to beat Florida, LSU. They're right there with those echelon teams, according to Vegas. I don't know what that tells you. But when folks are saying you can't hang your hat here in the SEC, you can't come in here and play with us, there's a lot of teams that Vegas obviously thinks they could play with and beat if they were to play on a neutral field this year.
Yeah, we got the famous Chris Bennett in here tonight on the live. Appreciate you in here, Chris, man. He's the king of Twitter over there, man. Always, following what you're saying there on Twitter, man. So I appreciate you joining us tonight. He's talking about why are Nebraska writers talking about Texas moving into the SEC. That's a good question, man. It's a good question. At this particular point, I think the Big Ten, if they could kick Nebraska out, they'd probably make them the 9th team in the Big 12 come season 2022 season. You know what I'm saying? Let's put Nebraska back in the Big 12, which would be the Big 9 at that particular point. Nebraska has lost a recruiting edge, man. And I think it's funny because we had a conversation about that again on that podcast last night, is that, why don't you choose the Big Ten? Why don't you, why didn't you go to the Pac-12? And I think it has to do with recruiting, man. It's going to be a hard sell to get a recruit to come to Texas to go up north and play against the likes of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan's, the Ohio States up north, when you can really stay geographically down in the South and still recruit at a level that you need to recruit at to be successful and win championships. One thing I do want to say, and me and Jeremy I was talking to Jeremy about it this afternoon, I think about lunchtime, is that what Texas does need to do is they need to go in to the SEC and realize they're one of 16 teams, man. And I think that's absolutely important. SEC's been around a long time, and they have some programs that are established, that have been there, that have won championships. And I think Texas needs to understand that they don't need to go in there and act like they're going to run this conference. They need to go in there as one of 16 and earn their keep, man. I think if you want to say really from a fanatic standpoint, the Texas fans, entitlement is something that we don't need to feel like we need to bring to the SEC at this particular point. We're not entitled to anything. Over the last decade, we haven't done much at all. We're going into a league that is, has top 5 programs each and every year. So I think just going in there and doing what we do and playing our games, man, which are going to be fantastic to travel around the Southeast Conference and play. I think we just need to go in there without that sense of entitlement that we're Texas, and go in there and earn your keep, man. I think that's the biggest thing about this SEC move to me.
And it's an eye opener. Like you said, you don't really get up, and it's sad to say, for games against Kansas State sometimes. You don't get up for games against TCU. You don't get up for games like Baylor. But you're going to have to get ready for an LSU. You're going to have to get ready for an A&M. You're going to have to get ready for an Oklahoma. Arkansas is that rival. We talked about the depth of this conference. Like you said, you can't go in there with a sense of entitlement. You get beat. Like, every game is going to be nip and tuck. Should it have been that way in the Big 12 over the last 10 years? Absolutely not. Was it? Absolutely. So we have experience playing in close games with inferior opponents? Yes, we do. Which is why we shouldn't have a sense of entitlement. We should go there and play ball. And a lot of talk about a realignment and where we should have went in relation to politics or academics. This is a football show. We're not going to get into the politics of why we should have went to the Pac-12 or the piece of why we academically don't align with the SEC. not really a thing. Again, the slogan of this show is "We Talk Ball," and that's all we're going to do. We're going to line up every Saturday once we join the SEC and hope that we put our best foot forward to win football games, because that's why we're going over there. Leave no that's the rationale for us going over there, is to compete with those football teams.
In the last 10 years, man, if you look at the games, like the non-conference games we played against some of these power hitters, man, we played really, really well. When it's time to get up for competition, Texas hasn't had a problem with getting physical and playing well. It's really, getting to a point where it's like where you're playing teams that have a talent disparity. You have a hard time playing above that level. You know what I'm saying? So to me, going into the SEC allows you to not take a week off each and every week. It doesn't matter if you're playing Ole Miss or if you're playing Mississippi State. It doesn't matter if you're playing Vanderbilt or Tennessee. Some people will say, Tennessee and Vanderbilt are at the Kansas level or the Kansas State level, or however you want to look at it, the Texas Tech level. But once you're going through this brutal schedule and you have, a Texas Tech in between an Alabama and a damn Georgia, you can't, waste a week, think you're going to beat Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, going in there, screaming 105,000 fans, think you're just going to walk out with a victory. I think that's what's going to make college football really, really exciting, man. And we can't get there fast enough.
Wholeheartedly agree. So I guess the next topic is what happens to the Big 12 at this point.
Talking Big 12, there's talks that, to me, the easiest move, and I don't know if AC, obviously you can always, want to go somewhere, but is the invite there? That's really, we can always want to go somewhere, but if you don't get an invite, they're definitely not going to let you in. They're not going to let you in the club or whatever case if you're not on the list, right? To me, the easiest move would probably be West Virginia to ACC. That they align up on the Atlantic coast there. They were part of Big East at one particular point. Once that fell apart, they came to the Big 12. They've always kind of regionally been out of place. So to me, West Virginia going to the ECC is pretty good move. As far as, you're talking about academics a while ago. Academics is going to play a big role in who the Big Ten accepts. Really, it is. Nine of the schools that are in the Pac-12 are also what they call AU schools, accredited universities. So it's they kind of pick and choose who they want to go there. To me, Kansas may be a school that the Big Ten says, hey, let's get them. Basketball program. They have basketball programs up there. And then maybe an Iowa State to go along with the Iowa would make sense to me up there.
Yeah. I was looking for more macro versus micro. Like, do you see not where individual teams are gonna go? Because we hear right now it's all everybody for themselves. Everybody's trying to find a place to go. But like you said, is the invite there? Are they going to have an option to go to the Pac-12, Big Ten, and the ACC, or are they going to have to grab a BYU or another football team that's currently not affiliated and replace these two teams and have to keep going until 2025 and then relook at things again? If the Big 12 is to implode, then I guess that alleviates Texas and Oklahoma from having to pay that money that we were talking about a little bit earlier. But like you said, are the invites there for these current teams that are going to be left in the Big 12? I'm not so sure, but everybody seems to think this conference is going to implode. Where these teams are going to go, it's every man for themselves, and we'll find out. But yeah, I was looking for more macro than micro.
But it's early. But again, I think the AAC, man, the American Athletic Conference can come in and I wouldn't say bolster the Big 12, but add teams to the Big 12 if the Big 12 wanted to stick around. Go in there and get SMU, Houston, Central Florida, Cincinnati, whatever those teams that you want to come in, maybe an opportunity, to make a bigger conference. But where it sits at now, where these schools, if Texas and Oklahoma were to leave at this particular point, you're going to be at the level of an AAC based on the teams that are left in the Big 12 with those 8 teams. I think you're almost equivalent, if not the ACC was American, maybe better than the Big 12 after Texas and Oklahoma leaves from top to bottom.
Absolutely.
So do they take their place as the Power 5 and that 8 becomes Power 4? So kind of where it's at, could turn into 4, 16, team leagues. We'll kind of see where that goes. And I think, we'll talk about that, as far as, pods or division and what makes sense. not just in the SEC, but hell, regionally, if the Pac-12 was to get eaten up by the Big Ten, which was non-regionally, you can honestly do, a pod system where you kind of work, in teams every other year, every year, so on and so forth. But
right. And that's the next discussion. And I'd like to get everybody else's opinion because when we started talking about the SEC schedule, it was broken down. Hey, we could break up the Western Division and it would encompass basically Mississippi West to our campus. And then everything east of Mississippi would fall to the east. And I think that was the angle. A lot of the angst coming from a lot of the SEC fan bases seems to be we're currently in a division. If Texas and OU come, we're going to have to realign and get moved in Alabama's league. The East is going to be deeper than the West. I don't really see that. I think a lot of their angst comes from them having to move based upon our entry into the league. Speaking of what we're talking about today, but I want to ask the viewers right now your preference. I was let's join and be a part of that Western Division that puts us with Oklahoma, Arkansas, LSU, A&M, the Mississippi schools. But then as Clint was kind of on the pod side, like that's going to allow us to take those road trips to Gainesville more often, to Knoxville more often. Even if they're not in our division, it'll be a more even schedule and you'll see more teams come through DKR. I would like to get their thoughts and then your thoughts on divisions versus pods.
Yeah, divisions is obviously going to I think that's what's going to make really the eastern side of the SEC be agitated with really Texas and Oklahoma coming in, because again, you're talking about if you move Alabama and Auburn to the eastern side of the division, you're talking about Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, right off the top in that division. Does Georgia and Florida want to have to deal with, Alabama and Auburn joining their side of the conference? Probably not. To me, if you look at the pods, you can go and say there's four 14 pods, and you can almost look at it like, the 6 NFL divisions, 24 teams where you got 4 teams in each division. Because you look at it, NFC East got four teams, NFC West got 4 teams. And you really look at it as, okay, you play the teams in your pods, and then you play 4 teams from a different. So what is it? The NFC East may play the AFC West one year, right? And then they're going to get, two teams. So let's do it with this. So if they got, say we're the West, right? The furthest West, so let's call ourselves West. You play your team, the 4 teams in the West, and then you play the 4 teams in the Far East. Let's say the Far East, probably Florida, Georgia, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee or South Carolina will probably be on there. And then you would get two teams from one of the other pods, and you would just reverse it the next year.
But how the NFL does it is the first place teams, like from the NFC East, would play the first place teams from the NFC South, Central, or West. I don't know if they would do it that way because, again, when you do it like that in the pros, it allows for probably what would we say, parity. Because if you're a first place team and you have to play another first place team in second place and then on, it's probably going to be more competitive football games. But yeah, you've talked me into understanding the pod system and how it would work and how it would be beneficial. Clint had a pod today that had, what did you have? Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas as a possible pod, calling it the Northwest. Then you'd have A&M, LSU, and then the Mississippi schools as a pod. And then you had the Tennessees with Tennessee's and basically it was Georgia and Florida and Tennessee's with the Alabama schools, and that was your 4 pods. But yeah, definitely could see how you could divide it up in different directions. But yeah, just you're going to get a good football game every single week when you're playing in the SEC.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I think if you look at it, I think A&M's played Georgia one time in the last 8 years that they've been in the SEC, just based on the way that the rotation has gone. And to me, and again, I'm just a Texas Longhorn guy that hasn't received the invite to the SEC yet and hadn't gotten accepted. So, these SEC guys know, guys probably know more than us. But at the end of the day, to me, I'd rather play, on a rotational basis where you're getting to play the Georgias and you're getting to play the Floridas and you get to play the Alabamas and the Auburns more than once every 8 years. And I think that's what that pod system allows you to do. But does the division schedule make it easier when you're talking about championships of each division getting to the SEC championship? Probably. I think you would probably have to have a semifinal between the two pod division winners. The 4 pod division winners. They would have a semifinal that would get you to the championship in Georgia, to the SEC championship in Georgia, after you had your winners of the pods play each other.
Yeah, Tracy had a thought real quick, and I'm gonna pop it up here. I hope that with this move, with possible move of Texas going to the SEC, that Texas doesn't start playing FCS opponents like Tarleton State. I don't know with this big of conference play, and I don't. We talked about it the other day. Is that we feel like it'll give Texas a chance to come back in state and play a Texas Tech, a Baylor, a TCU, a team that's not in the SEC but still close geographically, and keep those matchups going. Yeah, they might be pissed at us now because we left the conference and now they got to go find somewhere else to play. But again, we're going to bring money to their university like we always have when we show up to Fort Worth or out to Lubbock or to Waco. So it could bring those back. But I'm wondering, with as big as these conferences are getting this time nowadays, is there going to even be a non-conference? Or are you just going to have, like last year, one non-conference game to get you started, look like us against UTEP, and then you're right into conference play and you're getting after it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I think right now, as you see it, when you only have 4 teams in the college football playoff, you're probably going to see a non-conference. I think if you start getting to that 12-team playoff where you're going to have a quarterfinal, semifinal into the finals, not everybody getting to buy into the playoffs, I think you have to minimize the non-conference games you have because you're going to have to minimize the schedule. If not, you'll be at hell by the time you get to the championship. If you've gone through a quarterfinal, semifinal into the final, you probably play somewhere 15, 16 games.
Right.
So I think if as it sits right now, I think, you could probably keep 1, 2 non-conference games, and then you play rest all conference games. But then as you get closer to that 12-team playoff, you minimize the non-conference games you play. But again, me and Jeremy were talking today, and this goes for the SEC, and I know we used to get upset about it, but now that you're there and you got to play against these folks, 2 losses against an Alabama and a Georgia is not going to end your season, especially in a 12-team playoff. There's a chance that you could probably lose 3 games and still wind up in the top 12 if you got enough. If you've lost to number 1, number 4, number 7 in a given season, and those are the 3 losses you have, hell, who's to say you're not number 12 in a college football playoff? So I think that's an idea. We'll kind of see where it goes, divisions and in pods. But I think today I was actually listening to, I think, Brandon Morello, is that his name? The one of the writers, national writers for Marcelo for 247. He was talking about the blend of the Pac-10, the Pac-12 and the ACC. Pac-12 and the Big Ten coming together as one big conference, merging together as a conference, and then having pods where obviously you'd have the Southern the California schools in one pod, and you'd probably have the Arizona in another pod with Utah, and then you would have, your Big Ten schools up there, but you'd only travel so many times a year to either get to the Big Ten or Southern California. But how cool would it be to watch Ohio State to go to USC every other year, every 2 years? You know what I'm saying? Or Michigan go down, Michigan go play Oregon in conference, not out of conference, but in conference games. Just something to think about, man. College football is changing fast, quick, fast, in a hurry.
Just like what Peter's saying right now, Texas has played Florida one time. The states of Texas and Florida are the best 2 talent-producing states, and I'm looking forward to those kind of colossal showdowns. Again, you're going to get that. You're going to get Texas versus Florida. You're going to get Texas versus Alabama. You're going to get Texas versus Tennessee. And someone asked how it affects Arch Manning a little bit earlier in the podcast, and we'll circle back to recruiting. We're about to head there right now and how this affects them as well. But Arch, I actually watched the Book of Manning again last night, and of course it chronicles Archie Manning and his kids, Cooper, Eli, and Peyton, and of course Arch is the son of Cooper Manning, who played a wide receiver there at Isidore Newman High School with Peyton, and then went on to Ole Miss and had a neck injury and couldn't play football. But that's an SEC family. Arch was Ole Miss, Peyton was Tennessee, both Cooper and Eli were both Ole Miss. So I don't think it hurts at all. He was strongly looking at Texas when Texas was part of the Big 12, but there's rumors out there that Steve Sarkisian was let known when he took this job, this was a possibility. So there may be talks that Arch already is aware that Texas was coming or could potentially be coming to the SEC. So I don't think it hurts at all. in Arch Maney's recruitment. Your thoughts, Clint?
No, he loves Steve Sarkisian, man. Al Studer, who we just did a podcast on here, says he's going to Ole Miss. The plane is still there. We'll see with that. Right now, Texas is in a really good shot, and I think every other team will tell you that. And that was before you went to the SEC. And I think somebody did a story on him today. I'm not sure. It may have been Mike Roach on 247. But I did read a story where they asked him, would it make a difference of, Texas going to the SEC or not? They had said absolutely not. I think that's the relationship that he's built with AJ Milwee. That's the relationship he's built with Steve Sarkisian, that he trusts Steve Sarkisian enough as a quarterback developer to get him to the next level. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But now that you have an opportunity to go to play in the SEC, play against, obviously in your home state of Louisiana, go to Ole Miss, play there, play against them, go to Tennessee, have an opportunity to play those guys. I can tell you it doesn't hurt. It definitely doesn't hurt. And like you said, we'll talk about recruiting. Actually kind of CV into that if you want to at this particular point.
Yeah, definitely. So no, just that it, like I said, I don't know if it benefits you long in the grand scheme of things, but I know it doesn't hurt. The family is comfortable with that conference. Like I said, they all played there. So again, I don't think it hurts you at all. Again, it's going to come down, like you said, production at the quarterback spot, Steve Sarkisian, AJ Milwee versus whoever the quarterback coach happens to be at another university he's looking at. Again, but you're going to have to win football games. A lot's going to come down to where they see you progressing before you get to the SEC conference. So 2021 is a big year. You had your hand up. What's up?
Yeah, biggest thing, man, is I wish we could afford Jay Witt on this show. Texas Football Talk can't afford to get these guys on these shows. So, we'll get the just committed folks, before they get to the school. We probably couldn't afford I'm just talking about what Orange Bloods is doing on YouTube now. They got like Jordan Whittington, a couple other guys that they've signed contracts with to get them on the shows under NIL. But yeah, that may be difficult for Jeremy and Clint. Send us a couple of super chats, man, and we'll start building up our channel, and then we'll reach out to some of these guys and see if maybe a punter, maybe we get a punter or something on there for cheap.
Well, I mean, we've had Jordan Thomas on the channel. We've had Hayden Connor on the channel. We've had Isaac Pearson. We've had Connor Robertson out of this recent class, and we still have relationships. I mean, we talked to Jordan just this past weekend. So there may be opportunities where he may come on this channel. Just know that if he does come on this channel, he didn't get a check from Texas Football Talk in order to come. He did that because we created a relationship with him in his junior year of high school, and we're going to continue that. But yeah, going to recruiting to talk about our lifeblood, what we really enjoyed talking about on this channel, and that's Stewart, Dewberry, Anderson, and Perkins. So read an article on 247 today, the impact of joining the SEC, and Mike Roach had a chance to talk to a couple of these guys. Again, all 5 stars on this list that I'm talking about are near 5 stars in Evan Stewart, the wide receiver out of Frisco, Cam Dewberry, the lineman out of Cosquita, and then Bryce Anderson out of Beaumont, and then Perkins out of Cypress. All guys, of course, we know Bryce Anderson is a direct battle between Texas A&M and the University of Texas. And from what I understand, he has backed up his original commitment date from what was going to be later this month to late September because he wants an opportunity to catch a couple of games. Your thoughts on getting Cam Dewberry now on campus for an official visit, Bryce Anderson moving his commitment date back, Evan Stewart says Texas comes to the SEC, I'm coming to Texas, and then Harold Perkins coming to the barbecue after we didn't think we had an opportunity to host him. Your thoughts on these 4 guys? Yeah,
real quick. There's 139 people watching between Twitter and YouTube. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, we'd appreciate it. If it's the first time listening to Texas Football Talk and you have not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. And last thing, notifications. If you're not getting the notifications, hit that notification bell, so you know when we're coming on, man. But 133 people watching us right now in the middle of July on the off season is a big deal, man. That is huge. I think if you watched Josh Pate last night from 247, which I watch him usually nightly, I think he hit his biggest number they've ever had on that show in the middle of July. That's crazy. That tells you how crazy this offseason's been, man. This is one of the biggest things. I think New York Times had Oklahoma and Texas on its front page or somewhere in their newspaper that they had. This is big time news, man. It's one of the biggest really college football offseason situations that you've probably seen in my lifetime. To blue bloods moving from one conference to really the best conference in all of football in Southeast Conference. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, just real quick. There is no off season. We've discovered that. We hired a football coach. Then we went into name, image, likeness. Then we went into expanded playoff, and now we're going to conference realignment. This 2021 season has been bonkers as far as the off season is concerned. In my mind, there is no such thing as an off season here when you're talking Texas football.
Yeah, like Queen Bee saying down here, it shakes up the entire college football in the future. This move is really started. The pendulum's going to start swinging, and then all of a sudden the NCAA. I mean, the college football may separate itself from the NCAA and just become a really a semi-football league, get into the NFL at this particular point. And you got to understand why Texas and Oklahoma made that decision. And if you're one of these schools that may be listening out there that we're leaving, they have to understand it too. I don't know why you couldn't understand it, why we're leaving and going to another program. But hey, it's difficult, having people lean on you for damn near 50 years, in gaining money from what you're doing. Talk about recruiting, man. Go ahead, Jeremy. I know we've talked about recruiting.
We've been recruiting. Obviously, look at Richard's comment. This YouTube channel helped me flip my nephew from an OU fan to a UT fan. I can't thank you guys enough. Thanks for the shout out, Richard.
Hell yeah. Welcome back.
welcome your nephew to our family. We really appreciate you and him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool, man. Talk about this recruiting. Obviously, again, it's going to wind down to 22, 23, 24, when you're moving to the conference. And I think the soonest available date that the administration can put it out, the better. Obviously, lawyers are involved. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. But what you don't want to do, what you can do now is, you start getting into football time, September, October time frame, and you nail down that, hey, we're leaving and we're going to 22, and you have an opportunity to play in the SEC next year. There's a good chance, man, you're going to start grabbing. I was going through 5-star players last night. Devin Campbell, Denver Harris, Evan Stewart, who's the #1 wide receiver according to 247 in the composite.
Harold Perkins.
Harold Perkins, who loves the scheme fit. He said it multiple times on multiple platforms, loves the scheme fit, love what Pete Kwiatkowski and Jeff Choate have been selling him as far as what his role is going to be on the defense. But he wanted to play in the SEC, which makes sense because that is where guys are, getting developed and going to the NFL. So I think the sky's the limit, but it really comes down to, what's going to happen and how fast it's going to happen and how Texas is going to move to the SEC and how fast it goes. And then with Bryce Anderson's commitment date, I don't know what that tells you. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's a Texas A&M battle. He may be waiting to find out if Texas is joining the SEC next. I think maybe the only thing that's holding him up as a recruit is Texas A&M is in that conference. You know what I'm saying? I think Texas is where he wants to be. I think he loves Texas. He knows that Texas is that really Texas A&M hasn't produced any defensive backs in the last 5-10 years. And I think he has an opportunity, a good relationship with the guys at Texas. But I think that SEC patch on that uniform is swaying him to Texas A&M. So we'll have to see. He wants to go to an official a game in September and then pull it. We'll kind of see where it lands, man.
And again, he's going to probably get an opportunity to see us versus Louisiana, who's going to be a top 20 team, one-loss team from last year, finishing in the top 15 in the country. So he's going to get a good game day experience, I would think, because he wants to make that decision by September 1st. You go on the road to Arkansas and then back for Rice. I don't think he's going to go to the Rice game, but probably attend the Louisiana game. So let's make his experience great. Got a super chat on here without a chat, so please send a question or a comment. Jesus, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. If you would shoot a comment or question so we can acknowledge you. But yeah, thank you so much, Jesus, for that.
Appreciate that, man. Absolutely, thank you, Jesus, for that.
I did want to go back and I know. Let me hit up Tim B real quick because I want to get this right. Atascocita. Yeah, I do speak really, really fast. I apologize. I've heard it said many different ways, but Atascocita is how you pronounce where Cam Dewberry's from. So let me get that right. And then let me pull up Gamer's Life here.
I had it here.
We do this a lot.
All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. Gamers Life. We did that about 3 times. Hopefully, they didn't make anybody dizzy. I'm watching it going across the screen over here on this other thing. I think we did it 3 times. Boom, it's done. All right. Will NIL help keep any players a 4th year? Also, what teams are most threatened to fall off or down with UT and OU going to SEC? P.S. I won't chant SEC ever. Laugh out loud. Hook 'em. Our chant is Texas fight. Texas fight. Texas fight. Texas fight. There's no reason to chant SEC at all. For any reason. It'd be kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? After you've, talked trash to everybody else that's done, it'd be weird for the fans to all of a sudden pick up, the SEC chant. Let's not do that. I'll get your take on the NIL in 4 years and keeping guys longer.
We've talked about this before. Again, I think it's going to, you can make a lot more money, I believe. Again, I think another thing that really got this thing started, I'm talking too quickly right now too, is Nick Saban saying that Bryce Young was worth $1 million before he's ever taken a snap. So there's something to think about out there. But again, I think these guys are going to have to do a business case analysis with their families or the consultants and be like, hey, this is what I can get from the dealership in Austin. This is what I can get from this restaurant in Austin. And then compare it to what their draft projection would be. Go back and look at what the contracts are written for those particular draft picks and make that conscious decision. Because if you're deciding between a year and then it depends on whether you feel like you could continue to be developed or are you fine with working under Kyle Flood for another year? Where's the football team? Is a football team competing for a Big 12 or SEC championship or a national championship at the time that you're talking about going to the pros? And are you a 1st or 2nd day pick, or are you a 3rd day pick, 4th or 7th round, who may or may not make the football team if you don't progress? So a lot of things to take into consideration. Is it another thing that would allow me as a 4th-year senior to stay that you didn't have last year and prior? Absolutely. But again, I think that's going to be on the individual player, his consultants, his family, and where he's going to go in the draft.
And the same thing, and Cody Phillips, and I was going to say that, education too, finishing your degree. Finishing your degree is absolutely important. I can tell you that's important to me and Jeremy. Degree sits back here. I think Jeremy's degrees are somewhere around there too. So that's absolutely important. Absolutely important. First and foremost, man, is trying to finish that, get that degree. At the same time, getting NIL, at the same time you're being developed to get you to the NFL. Really don't have anything to add to that. What teams are most threatened to fall off or down with UT and OU going to the SEC? To me, I'm trying to figure out where there's a landing place for your private schools in Baylor and TCU right now. I think those are the two schools right now. Because if I'm not mistaken, those schools came from, help me out, Jeremy.
TCU came from the WAC or the Mountain West or the Mountain West. They were
Mountain West. Yeah. So they came from Group of 5 schools.
And Baylor's always been a Southwest Conference team. Yeah, they were Southwest Conference.
Yeah, so I just don't know what's going to happen with those 2 private schools in Baylor and TCU moving forward when it comes to money.
But I agree. I think Iowa State could probably get a soft landing in the Big 12, or I'm sorry, the Big 10. I think Kansas or Kansas State's a possibility up there as well. And then talking Oklahoma State, I think they'll find somewhere to go. Like you said, I think it's TCU, Baylor. I think Texas Tech will find its way out west to the Pac-12. And then you're talking, like you said, TCU, Baylor. Where are those guys going to head? Because again, TCU's got a pretty good football team. They're pretty competitive. And then Baylor's just coming off a basketball national championship. So I don't know where they're going to go. That's for them to negotiate. But yeah, you hope they find a good place to go play. And I think
Kansas State's another one too. Kansas State kind of falls in between because they don't really they're not a big basketball school. And I think it revolves around just things other than just football. It kind of where we landed with those things. But we'll kind of see.
Let me pop up Scott Sheridan real quick. Just another comment. Scott Sheridan's he's constantly here. He's constantly giving of his money to this channel. We really, really, really appreciate it, Scott. Like every time you come in here, you're giving knowledge, you're giving thoughts, you're giving comments, and then we really appreciate you donate to this channel to help grow this family. In case you couldn't tell, from last June through July, I got a new camera. We put this thing on Ethernet. We've got StreamYard now. We're trying to grow this product and continue to better this product each and every time. And it's because guys like you who continue to give to this channel, we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You want to go to our last topic of discussion?
Yeah.
So Preseason awards list came out. Of course, Bijan Robinson is up for the Maxwell Award. I figure he'll be on the Doak Walker Award watch list as well. Cade Brewer up for the Mackey Award, which is the top-ranked tight end in the country. Keandre Coburn for the Bednarik, the best defensive player in the country. And then today, DeMarvion Overshown was found on the Butkus watch list. So those 4 guys currently are on watch list. There's going to be more watch lists to come in the preseason. We know we got a couple of guys on the All Big 12 team. But who do you guys feel are being overlooked thus far or do you feel like are going to show up? Do you feel like Casey Thompson's going to show up for the Davey O'Brien Award? Do you feel like let's just use a secondary member, Deshaun Jameson's going to find himself on the Thorpe list? Who's being overlooked, or who do you think you'll find on these watch lists as they continue to come out in preseason? Your thoughts, Clint?
Yeah. Obviously, tight end. I don't know what you're going to get much out of that. I think they just take a group of guys that are, probably top 16. Probably more than that, probably 32 or whatever the case may be. At the beginning of the year, we'll kind of see where it winds up. I'm not, the hype about these awards at the beginning of the year don't mean as much if you're not doing much. The ones at the end of the year means you did something.
Absolutely.
So I think we've been burned a little bit on those preseason all lists or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's better to be on the end one and not the beginning one. And I think if we have the season, I think we can have with some of these guys, you'll see more guys on the postseason all conference list, than what we have going into the season. I think that's what means the most to me. But DeMarvion Overshown definitely has shown in this, last couple of games last year what he can do as a linebacker. I think his continued growth with probably Pete Kwiatkowski and Choate at that linebacker position. I think you'll see some definitely growth out of him. To me, Keandre Coburn is one of the best defensive tackles in the nation, bar none, man. But he has a bunch of guys that are surrounding him. They're just, if not as good, maybe better. And I think that's where our strength is, and on that defensive line. And then obviously Bijan Robinson, nobody really has to say anything about that. You're talking about, if not the top running back, one of the probably top 3 running backs in the nation going into this year. And he's probably going to have somewhere over 1,500 yards, rushing. No telling what they're going to do in the pass game, but it wouldn't surprise me if Bijan didn't have plus 1,500 yards in the run game. And then we'll see what his receiver numbers look like when Steve Sarkisian gets a hold of them this year.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on all these selections and on these preseason lists. Like you said, it matters more that you're on the postseason list, but to be recognized by these writers and these associations got to mean something. A couple of comments in here. We got Xavier Worthy, Offensive Freshman of the Year in the Big 12. You got Troy O'Meary for the Blitnikoff Award, Cameron Dicker for the Groza Award, both Deshaun Jameson and Thompson for Thorpe. And then Kerstetter's being mentioned as a first or second teamer on the line. Yeah, just what they can do this season to put themselves on that postseason All Big 12 first, second, and third team honorable mention, and to put themselves in the conversation for postseason awards. But again, you got to win. Clint's a guy, and I'm a guy that says, hey, I'd rather be the 20th ranked team in the nation, not very much pub, and then sneak up on everybody and find themselves in the top 5 at the end of the year competing for a playoff appearance. But again, if you don't win, you're not going to find yourself on the All Big 12 team because it's all about results, team results.
Yeah, Texas has always played better when they've been ranked, up in the 20s, 20, 22, 23, and they've won to get themselves to a level of being a top 10 team in the nation. In the AP poll or the coach poll, whatever the case may be. I love being there, man. I'd rather start there and work yourselves towards this than be there and then, lose a couple of games and then you start flatlining and then all of a sudden you find yourself outside of the top 25, which it seems like we've done quite a bit over the last 10 years. So definitely like where we're currently at, man.
Hey, I want to pop this one up. Jeremy, you've been losing weight. I can see it in your face. You look thinner. Guess I've lost 9 pounds. When I went on vacation, I told Clint I need to make some lifestyle changes, get back in the gym, start cutting weight. So yeah, I started my vacation at 215. I'm currently at 206 and trying to get down to that 185, 190 playing weight by the time the season starts. Working hard in the gym and trying to lose more calories than I take in. That's the secret. So yeah, I've lost 9 pounds and trying to lose a couple more.
Yeah, we got a couple of things, man. Yeah, I'll be in a swimsuit next weekend, man. Or next week I'm headed to Cancun, Mexico. I'll be there next week, and then me and Jeremy got what is it? Our fantasy draft is going to be held 26th, 28th of August that weekend. So we'll be at the lake with some friends of ours from high school. So we got to get right. We got to get right before all that stuff happens, man. And you could. I was telling Jeremy the same thing yesterday. You can really tell in his face, man. He's losing weight. But I see Jeremy a lot, either here or I'll go visit him and stuff. So got a $15
fill in the blank.
Yes, fill in the blank. I predict we will have this many wins this year. I'll let you go.
10 again. We did a podcast with Al Studer yesterday. He asked us for our season predictions. We're going to cut that out when we release our portion of it on Wednesday so that we can do a preseason prediction show game by game. That's still our plan. But you guys have heard me say I think we're going to win all the winnable games this year, and all those winnable games are everybody but two in my mind, and that's a top 5 team in Oklahoma. And not that we can't win them. I just feel that we're not favored to win them, and we're going to have to play a really, really good football game, an A-plus game to win these 2 games. And that's Oklahoma and the Red River rivalry, and that's to play Iowa State in Ames with 20 out of 22 starters coming back. So my number's 10.
Yeah, I'm at 10 too, and for the same reason Jeremy's at 10, so I won't be long-winded on this for the first time ever. Iowa State, Oklahoma, going to be different. It definitely be difficult. Obviously Spencer Rattler coming back. They got a loaded team. I think 20 out of 21 starters are coming back for Iowa State. Playing in Ames, Iowa is going to be a disaster. But just realize, man, the bullseye is going to be larger than it's been this year than it has any other year, and the reason is because you've left the conference. You think tortillas are, if you were playing in Lubbock this week, if you were playing in Lubbock this year, there'd be a lot of tortillas flying at you. There's probably going to be a whole bunch of SEC chants going on, overrated SEC chants going on. To me, you got the biggest bullseye on your back this year because you have left these guys high and dry and headed to a better situation than what you've left them in. So just realize, man, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough going to each and every one of these places. But yeah, I got 10 wins. Iowa State, Oklahoma are probably my losses. But again, you got to watch out for Dugan and TCU and a couple other schools here.
I think 10-2 with those 2 losses get you to a nice New Year's Six bowl game. I've seen projections against us playing Notre Dame in a New Year's Six bowl. I've seen us going back to the Alamo Bowl. I just think you need to win the games you're supposed to win and put yourself in a good position in front of these recruits that we've been talking about, and for that possible move to the SEC for 2022. Yeah,
definitely the most interesting game of the year is going to be Arkansas in Fayetteville at nighttime on ESPN, knowing you're headed that way. I think, the Arky game will be the interesting, considering we're going to into the SEC after the season. Absolutely, probably the most watched game of the year will probably be Arkansas and Texas. When it comes to Texas, probably Arkansas as well, because again, there's a chance that you're probably going to see them the following year, and you're probably going to wind up being either in their division or their pod, however it works out moving forward. And again, it's an old Southwestern Conference rival. Did a lot of head-to-head battles over the years. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a big one. Definitely going to be a big one. So
exciting times, man. Very exciting times.
It must be exciting. We've got 162 people over here watching between Twitter and YouTube. So if you wouldn't mind on here, if y'all haven't hit that like button, please hit that like button. Again, if you have not watched this before, or if you have not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. But welcome to the family, man. This is all about the fans. I know somebody, one of these cats, man, A&M cats, tweeted something out this week about T-shirt fans, and Twitter went all in on that cat. And then it's nice to be a fan of a program that people care about. I can tell you that now. Now it's getting us at that next level to where we need to be at.
Can I say one more thing? I know we're getting close, but me and Clint were talking pre-show and talking about Kevin Elfline. Help me if I said that wrong. J.C. Hartzell, Chris Del Conte, Steve Sarkisian. You were just talking about what an exciting time to be a fan of Texas football. Look at what these four gentlemen have done since they came to this program. And from what I understand, and Bucky Godbolt said this, and he's been around the program for 30 years. He was coaching Ricky Williams when Ricky Williams was a running back here, and he stayed around the area. So he knows Longhorn football. He said he has never seen a more in-step administration in his 30 years of watching this. And that includes Mac Brown and the Lost Odds. So I think we're going in the right direction with the right people in place. We just got to get that product on the football field to match these guys' hunger for greatness. And that's what they're searching for. That's what they were doing when they decided to go to the SEC. They said, well, hey, we want to play the best players or the best teams in the country. And they come from the SEC. And guess what? We're geographically pretty doggone close to them. Let's get it started. So I want to thank those guys from this channel for CDC and then Steve Sarkisian, Jay Hartzell, and the board of directors for heading us in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Green Valley 6 wants me to elaborate real quick on this T-shirt fan thing. T-shirt fan, me and Jeremy are probably the biggest T-shirt fans out there. We didn't graduate from University of Texas. Hell, a lot of people didn't graduate from University of Texas. And the thing is that I think the comment was, you're a Texas A&M. You graduated from Texas A&M. If you wear a Texas A&M shirt, if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, you're more than likely got your T-shirt from Walmart and not a graduate of the school. And it's almost a very embarrassing statement for someone to say about their own school. It means that you're not popular enough to grab onto other fans and to think that the only fans you're going to have are the ones that graduate from your school is absolutely moronish. So I can tell you that me and Jeremy have been fans of. We talked about it on this podcast yesterday. Listening to Craig Way on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Listening to the radio. Listen to Texas football. Texas Longhorn on the radio at our grandparents' house. Watch Texas A&M in Texas play on Thanksgiving Day before and then you had Detroit and the Cowboys playing in the NFL and so on and so forth. So that's enough about that. But definitely probably the biggest T-shirt fans out there. Me and Jeremy are. Welcome, baby. Yes, we are.
Yeah. Got one more. 2015 against Oklahoma State. Will we experience that again this season? I need them, Wes, if you could just elaborate exactly what you're talking about the 2015 Oklahoma State game.
Well, if it's in Stillwater, Oklahoma, definitely hate going to Stillwater. That's one of the worst, probably to me. That and Lubbock were the two worst places for me to go play, or for me to go play, for the team to go play. Those are the ones that probably stress me out the most during the season. But yeah, definitely wasn't a fan of Stillwater. 2015, I would have said maybe no, because that would have been 2019, maybe 2018.
No, here's what he's talking about. He's talking about
200 bogus fans.
He's talking about, obviously the officiating that game was pretty bad. Again, do we think there's going to be a bullseye on our back by the officiating? Again, we go back and watch our post-game shows last year. We have not shared, and I know a lot of folks here share the same sentiments that we do, that the Big 12 officiating needed some help. And Tracy Williams is on here. He's an official in the Dallas-Fort Worth area chapter. Does a hell of a job. And I've never wanted to be an official. I always wanted to be a coach or a guy that watches game film, but never wanted to put on any stripes in any sport, whether it be basketball, football, or anything. So those guys have a tough job. But is there going to be any kind of kickback because of the decision we made to join the SEC and leave the Big 12 conference? I hope not. I hope that everybody plays with integrity, coaches with integrity, officiates with integrity, and let the best team win. Essentially, I chronicle myself back to one of my favorite movies, and that's with Denzel Washington. Help me out, Clint. Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans. And he says, "I'm going to take you all to jail." When one team was getting the benefit of the calls, and the other team wasn't. So I just hope that everything's on the up and up, and that to call the game as you see it, and that's it.
Damn, it was a fun night tonight, man. 166 people in here currently right now. It was a good night. Definitely a good night. Frank says, doesn't matter if you graduated from Texas or not. UT is my alma mater, and y'all bleed burn orange as much as the rest of us. We appreciate it, Frank. Thank you. And on that note, we are probably going to end the show. Thank you for listening tonight. We appreciate it. You got any final thoughts, Jeremy, before we let them go?
No, just a reminder. We're not very good about reminding you about the notification bell. We remind you to like and subscribe. Clint will tell you the platforms that we're on as far as social media, but please hit that notification bell because, again, we're coming fast and furious over the next couple of weeks. Like we have a show that's coming out Wednesday that we taped yesterday. Hopefully we get some news out of the barbecue/pool party, and we'll bring you a couple of commitments this weekend. We'll talk about those guys, but just had a blast. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Come on back.
Real quick, I want to shout out real quick. I know Candace Queen Bee. She's also on Twitter. I think she did some stuff just recently for some veterans. As you know, me and Jeremy are both. I'm retired. Jeremy's still active duty Army, but definitely want to shout out. I know she did something with some veterans, so I appreciate her support with the veterans. Thank you for that, Queen Bee, as well. Again, we appreciate you listening as always. Like Jeremy said, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Twitter at TX Football Talk, on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, and on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your week, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.